Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5th episode of Season 3 of the Coffin Corner Podcast. I'm your host, GoodNightPunk, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Richie. Richie, what's going on?
I am just jazzed because in 24 hours we will be watching football.
Right? Like, it's pretty exciting. I've been already started making football bets. Last weekend I had 4 drafts. You had one right before the podcast, right?
I did. I had a 30-minute sprint draft, apparently, right before the podcast. Whoever schedules 30 seconds per picks is an asshole. You
better have that cue on point.
Yeah, you better know what you're doing. Don't put your phone down. Yeah. Well, yeah, man. And that was my last one. So drafts are done. I did my weekly confidence pool picks tonight for week 1. It's like, man, we're in week 1 mode now. Like, we're ready to go. Like, we've got our week 1 picks coming up later in this podcast, which is that's a weekly thing we do. So yeah, we're ready to go.
Yeah. So I will definitely be using the picks we do here on the show to go fill out my Coffin Corner Pick'em picks for this week.
Yeah, I've never done a versus the spread pool, so that'll be interesting. Because the other one I do is just a confidence. You just 1 through 16. How confident are you? So this one, it's like, I'm picking a team that may not win, but maybe they'll cover the spread. So yeah, that's different.
I liked it because last year when we did predictions, a lot of the times we made 2 picks. We're like, spread and the pick for who's going to win. So I'm like, all right, well, that'll give me a pretty good idea on who I'm going to pick this week once we go over each.
Spoiler alert, when I filled out the section for our picks and wrote down all the spreads, there were a couple that already I'm like, how is that the spread? So it's going to be, it'll definitely impact my picks when I make them.
Makes sense to me. All right, well, I don't know if you noticed, I got a new beard trimmer. It's almost like I don't have a beard. I used the wrong setting and almost trimmed the entire beard off. I was very upset yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like gone. Oh, man.
Now it's just stubble. It's not even a beard. It's just stubble. Yeah. It doesn't look bad. It's a different look for you.
I told my wife, I'm like, this is Navy on the weekends beard right here.
Yeah. Like, that's underway for a week.
Exactly. So that should grow back soon. So if you don't recognize me next week, it's because it grew out. All right.
That quickly, just
poof. That's the good thing about hair; it grows back.
Well, not always. There's a couple. I've lost quite a few up here that have not grown back.
Dude, this is why I like keeping my head shaved, because this section right here is just so thin these days. If I don't have it trimmed, it looks terrible. Just so bad.
Just keep those hats on.
This year I've gotten way back into hats. That's the thing. So, all right. Anyways, back to football. We're back with our top 5, and I chose the top 5 based on what we talked about last week, one we did last year, and that is the top 5 fantasy players you did not expect to draft. And a lot of the ones I picked were people that were later round picks that were around a lot and very often in the 4 drafts I did. And more often than not, I did pick them just because I felt like there was great value for such a late round for these players. So that's how I made my picks. As well, I see some of your picks are probably more in the range of, are these better than what's sitting there at the time I'm picking, right?
Well, most of mine have a specific reason behind each one. I'll start us off. My number 5, David Montgomery. Not that I don't like him. I just usually do not pick the number 2 running back, or if it's a 50-50 split, whatever it is, of being in Detroit. I tend to stay away from that. I like running backs who I feel are
workhorses?
Safe. Yeah, workhorses, at the very least, going to get the majority of the work. But in one league, I didn't take my first running back until round 6, and he was the only, he was the best one left. So as my number 1 running back, I was like, well, that I still think he's going to score, and if Jahmyr Gibbs gets hurt at all, Montgomery becomes like a top 5 back. They love to run, so I'm not worried about it. It's just did not expect my number 1 running back to be the number 2 on the depth chart.
And he was technically number 1 last year, but whenever Gibbs was in, he was majority of the runs went to him, and he still managed to get 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns. So that's a pretty good 6th rounder for sure.
Yeah, it's weird for me to be like, oh yeah, my number 1 running back is the 2nd guy in Detroit. Like that's a little odd. But hey, the hope is that Detroit scores enough touchdowns that both Gibbs and Montgomery can feed.
Oh, for sure. For sure. My number 5 is a guy I don't even think we talked about when we talked about the Atlanta Falcons. A new pickup for the Atlanta Falcons. Also their number 2 receiver, like cemented, said by the coach, number 2 receiver on the Falcons, and that's Darnell Mooney. A very recognizable name from his time with Chicago, even though his last 2 years there didn't really pan out very well. Still, in my opinion, a very good receiver who now actually has someone that can throw him the ball. And I think Darnell Mooney was available 10th round on in every league I was in as a number 2 receiver while everyone else was picking up number 3s. Here's a guy on a team that's I think will be good this year, not to mention has Kirk Cousins throwing to them. So, yeah, Darnell Mooney I did not expect, but I think I got him in 3 out of my 4 leagues.
Yeah, he is not someone that is getting talked about at all. So I rarely see him go in drafts. That's
Which
a good,
is crazy to
good
me.
Depth. Yeah,
crazy. So,
my number 4, Brian Robinson Jr. Ironically enough, that same draft that I took David Montgomery, I took Brian Robinson in round 7. I don't typically like to draft players on my favorite teams, especially the Commanders, because I'd rather they break my heart on the field and not in my lineup as well. But at that point, he was the best running back available. There's a lot of people that like Austin Eckler because he's there, but if you've been following training camp and Cliff Kingsbury, it really seems like they're just going to lean on Brian Robinson and use Austin Eckler more as a 3rd down kind of role like they did Antonio Gibson. So Robinson should be a serviceable 2nd running back. But yeah, I don't typically like to take my favorite players, but didn't have a choice.
I remember you also taking Terry McLaurin in the league?
I did, as my 3rd. But that's the thing. As my 3rd, he's not in my starting lineup. Brian Robinson, I'm relying on him every week.
Yeah, I got you. My number 4 is a guy that I can vividly remember one of his touchdowns last year on the 4-yard line, making this insane one-handed grab, flipping around his body, and somehow leaning out and scoring a touchdown. And that's T. Higgins. That guy is insane. Really good receiver for the Bengals, number 2. And somehow, listen, I know Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase, but Jamar Chase also doesn't have a contract and isn't practicing. T. Higgins was going in the 6th round or later in almost every draft I did. And if Jamar Chase misses time, and even if he doesn't, T. Higgins is an amazing wide receiver. So I did not expect for him to be around a lot in those later rounds for me, but in most of the ones I got him in, he was like my 3rd receiver. So didn't expect that. Yeah. But
T. Higgins always is a very good fill-in receiver. Gets you wide receiver 2 numbers. And especially with Joe Burrow healthy, they like to throw. So even with Chase, who did return to practice today, which makes sense. I didn't think he was going to hold out. But yeah, even with both of them on the field, T. Higgins has still scored good points the last couple of years, even with Chase on the field. Mm-hmm. So that's a nice one. My number 3 actually is Jamar Chase. And the reason he's on the list is because where I got him. I got him in the 2nd round in one of my leagues because I picked 11th, so it was at 13. And I almost took him at 11, but I was like, no, I want a running back. So I took a running back. And then the guy took 12, took 2 running backs. So coming back, he was still sitting there. And I'm like, and this was about a week and a half ago. So there were a lot of questions about, oh my God, is he going to hold out the whole year? I didn't think he was going to. So I was like, and at that point in the second round, I'm like, screw it, I got to take a chance on him. And yeah, here we are going into week 1, and it sure seems like he's going to play and everything's going to be fine. So that could end up being quite the steal.
Well, that reminds me of, I think it's a family league, where I got Amon-Ra St. Brown in the middle of the first round and Justin Jefferson in the middle of the second round. So
yeah.
I don't know how the hell that happened, but I got 2 of the top 3 receivers in one league. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's always nice when guys fall down the list. But that's why I prefer live drafts. But even in an online draft like we did for that league, guys still fell. That was nice.
Yep.
Usually everybody gets auto drafted, but it's nice when everybody's in the draft and people still fall.
Yes, exactly. That makes it way more interesting than when you know that there's 2 autos in front of you, so there's no chance you're going to get that guy.
Exactly.
So, my number 3 is Jerome Ford. He was available very late in a lot of drafts. I don't know exactly why, since Nick Chubb isn't expected to be back till week 7 at the earliest, but the the Browns bye is week 10, and most people think that he'll be back the week after the bye, so week 11. So that's 9 weeks of Jerome Ford as the number 1 Browns running back you get. I will take that all day. So Jerome Ford, definitely one I didn't expect to draft, but he kept being available in multiple leagues. So I'm like, I need running backs. I took a lot of receivers to start drafts this time around. See how that does me, since I sucked last year taking running backs a lot in the first round. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I actually got Jerome Ford in a couple leagues too. I like that. Everybody, like Nick Chubb was still ranked very high. I think he might have even been ranked, especially on ESPN, still above Jerome Ford. And it's like, it's just mathematically impossible. It's like Chubb's going to play 11 through 17. It's like, I like that pick. I like Jerome Ford, especially early on covering bye weeks. Perfect.
For sure.
My number 2 is a running back that I wasn't really hyped on up until like last week. Everyone started talking about Ray Davis from Buffalo. I don't know much about him other than what I've heard on the radio. Apparently he's good sized, more of a 3-down back than James Cook is, but can still catch the ball. So deep in drafts, as like my 5th running back in a lot of leagues, I took a shot on Ray Davis. I was like, why not? Someone, after last year, everyone's like, who's going to be this year's Kyram? Who's going to be this year's Puka? So I tried to take a chance on some young players in a couple of good spots like him, Tyrone Tracy, things like that. And who knows? But yeah, that was, I had absolutely no interest in that guy up until probably about last Wednesday.
Crazy. He is 5'8", 220 pounds. He's a little
short, but he's
little semi truck.
Yeah. Like that's Doug crazy. Martin, the muscle hamster.
Yes. Oh God, I forgot about him. Yeah, I got another halfback on my list now, and that is Rico Dowdle from Dallas. Now, granted, I know he's not the number 1 running back, but if you think about who the number 1 running back is, Ezekiel Elliott. I think that Rico Dowdle is going to get a lot of carries in Dallas, despite the fact. So even if Rico Dowdle takes over the spot Tony Pollard used to be behind Ezekiel Elliott, that would be good. But then on top of that, Ezekiel Elliott's old, was cut by the Cowboys and only came back because they had a terrible running back room, or just didn't have enough depth at running back. I feel like he'll do even more than Tony Pollard did in that role before. So I drafted Rico Dowdle in either the second to last round or the last round in almost every league as my 5th halfback, just because I believe that he'll grow into a stable point scorer for Dallas.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the Dalvin Cook signing hurts him at all. I don't think it will. Dalvin Cook's just as washed as Ezekiel Elliott is.
Well, not to mention he's not even on the active roster.
Yeah, so
he's on the practice squad.
It will. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity in Dallas at running back. So hopefully he can be the one to step up, because I don't expect Deuce Vaughn to do it either. So
yeah.
I like it. My last one is a player that I promised myself I wouldn't draft again. But in one of our leagues, I needed a fourth running back, and he was just sitting there, and I said, screw it, I'll take Javonte Williams. So,
which really worried me, because I actually took Javonte Williams in a few leagues, because you said the year you don't draft him, he's going to do well.
Oh, well, there you go. I screwed you right at the end. And it was like one of the last drafts I did. I was like, oh, I didn't get him in any league. I didn't take him. And then I was sitting there needing a fourth running back, and he was literally the best option left. And I said, oh, well, I'll take him. So, sorry, Javonte, I screwed you again.
Welcome back, good friend. Feels like home.
Achilles in week 1, he'll be like, that son of a bitch must have drafted me again.
My number 1 is a quarterback, and I took him because I took him as my backup in 3 out of 4 leagues, and that is Baker Mayfield from Tampa Bay. Nobody was taking Baker, and I'm trying to figure out why that is, but I cannot make sense of it. I mean, I guess people just forgot what he did stat-wise last year. Regardless of what you thought of this team and how good or bad they were, they made the playoffs. They won a playoff game, I believe. And so, but he threw for 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions last year, which is pretty good stats for a backup quarterback on your fantasy team, and a guy that was going as the 22nd, 23rd quarterback off draft boards. It was crazy to me. So Baker Mayfield, glad to have him as a backup, because I feel like if I got to throw him in for a game or two, he'll be totally fine. Not to mention he's still got, Mike Evans. Who's the other one there? They got another.
There's Godwin.
Godwin, yeah. Godwin, Evans. They still have Godwin and Evans. Cade Otton, good target for him. I feel like he'll be a very good backup.
Yeah, I mean, we love Baker. Well, I love his personality, his toughness, his mentality. I hope he continues to have success in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, now, one of the few quarterbacks, especially even Browns quarterbacks, one of the few quarterbacks that has had a little success, everyone gave up on him, somehow clawed his way back, and he's a starter again. So,
yeah, I
don't know how you can not like Baker. Unless you're a Browns fan and you just feel like he somehow let you down. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if I were me, I would feel like the Browns let us down just by releasing him, because we made the playoffs with him and he didn't win a playoff game. Okay. Confusing.
They gave up too early.
Mm-hmm. So, yep. Well, that's it for the top 5. We'll see how all those players do for us. I don't foresee a lot of mine besides maybe T. Higgins getting a lot of play. Well, Jerome Ford probably too, getting a ton of play. But we'll see how they do filling those spots for us, because you got to have a full team. So, and the next up, I wanted to talk about notable cuts and waiver signings. I'm going to try to go through this pretty quick, just because of the fact that we have so much to do tonight. I almost cut this out entirely last night when I was looking how much stuff we had, and that was before I remember that we do weekly predictions, which would add even more to this podcast. So, we talked about this last week. The Cardinals cut Desmond Ridder after trading Rondale Moore for him. Just absolutely ridiculous. Ravens released veteran receiver Russell Gage. I was kind of surprised. That guy has always done pretty well.
I didn't even know he was in Baltimore.
Right, and where he was last year, he did pretty well. And I remember him last being in Tampa Bay, I think. But I
still think of Atlanta when I think of him.
Oh, that was his original spot for sure.
Yeah.
Ravens cut the son of Quadre Ishmael, tight end Quadir Ishmael. I remember seeing that name in the preseason. I was like, they were all hyping him up. This is the son of, famous wide receiver for us. He signed to the practice squad, so I mean, he's still got a chance to be a Raven. But the Bills released Frank Gore Jr. and just threw this on as a little extra. Wide receiver Andy Isabella, former Cardinal, that's second rounder, worst pick ever. The Panthers released rookie QB Jack Plummer, as well as wide receiver Terrace Marshall. So, surprising on the Terrace Marshall guy. That was actually, he was pretty good, but I guess he's just kind of like Andy Isabella, and he got a lot more chances than Andy did.
Yeah, I liked Terrace Marshall in college. I don't know Carolina really ever gave him a chance. Maybe they just didn't like the way he practiced. But I think he ended up, where did
49ers.
49ers, that's right.
Yep.
Which, I mean, watch him
had a better deal.
Now.
Yeah.
And then, did Jack Plummer end up anywhere else?
I think they signed him to their practice squad.
Did they? All right, good.
Yeah.
Check.
While you're checking that, I'll keep going. Bears released preseason standout Brett Ripien. I was very surprised by that. Brett Ripien was somehow amazing in the preseason. I did not expect that from him. The Cleveland Browns released Donta Foreman, which is surprising because everybody talked about them re-signing him now that they know Nick Chubb's not going to come back till probably their bye week. So, but I haven't seen them re-sign him yet. So Donta Foreman's not a Brown.
Wouldn't they have already known Nick Chubb? Was it like they already knew he was going to go on the PUP list? Like, why? That's weird. But Jack Plummer is on the Panthers practice squad. So
makes sense.
And I don't know, Brett Ripien is signed to Minnesota. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that. Yeah, I think I have that down here. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Broncos released wide receivers. A lot of offensive weapons released by the Broncos. They got rid of Tim Patrick, which I kind of understand because he's been hurt for 2 straight years, despite the year before that having a really good season. And Little Jordan Humphrey, a name that was getting a lot of catches, at least from last year that I remember, as well as Samaje Perine, the halfback. So they're going a lot younger there. I guess these players probably weren't drafted by I almost said Bill Cowher. Whoa.
Bill Cowher.
Yeah. So they're gone. The Texans released 2023-24 big catch receiver Noah Brown. That was surprising.
That one was pretty surprising.
Because Nico Collins and Noah Brown were like the 2 names before Tank Dell started coming on. But Noah Brown and Nico Collins were carrying the Texans offense. He got released. Good news for you, because I also wrote down here, Commanders signed wide receiver Noah Brown to the practice squad. So
actually, I think he's on the active roster.
Hey, that's pretty good. He's a good receiver.
So, he is. I'd love to see him get some opportunity in Washington. Not that I don't like Diami Brown or Luke McCaffrey, but Noah Brown is actually he's 6'2", and we don't have anybody with size. So that would be nice.
For sure. Side note, as a Lions fan, I just want to mention this. Jaguars released quarterback Amanu Oruwariye. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. After that 6-interception season where we all thought he was going to be a breakout starting cornerback for us, and then last year he was absolute ass. Did not make the Jaguars. The Chiefs cut wide receiver Kadarius Toney after trading for him last season, and him dropping everything that went. No, it was 2 seasons ago they traded for him. He had a whole season there last year. Couldn't do anything. He's gone. And then I thought this one was interesting. The Vikings release tight end N'Keal Harry. So apparently N'Keal Harry had converted from wide receiver to tight end, and even that didn't work to keep him on the Vikings. So unfortunately, because I like N'Keal Harry.
That is so annoying. Yeah, N'Keal Harry, obviously a hometown boy for us. It's so annoying to see he just can't stick anywhere in the NFL. And I kind of blame the Patriots for taking him, because if they had let the Cardinals take him instead of Andy Isabella, he'd probably still be on the Cardinals and doing well. Mm-hmm. Very frustrating.
Annoying. Next up, you've got the Patriots released QB Bailey Zappi, who started a bunch of games for them a couple years ago. Even, I think, one last year. And was good. To the point where a lot of people thought Bailey Zappi was their starting quarterback and not the guy I can't even remember his name. Mac Jones.
Yeah.
I thought this was interesting. A pair of famous brother wide receivers were released by the Saints, Equanimous St. Brown and Samson Nakua. Samson Nakua I don't know a lot about. That's just his brother broke out last year. Nakua's name sticks. Everybody wants a Nakua at this point. But Equanimous St. Brown is a good receiver. I'm kind of surprised to see him floating around, because when your dad's a world-class bodybuilder pushing you to be good, it's kind of surprised how he's bouncing around. And I think Samson Nakua is the guy that almost returned a punt for a touchdown in the last week, got it to like the 2-yard line before he got tackled, and still released.
Yeah, in the preseason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
James Robinson, released by another team. His time is probably over. It's unfortunate because I really liked him when he played for the Jaguars. But once ATN came back, James Robinson got pushed to the back of the line and just folded completely, which is unfortunate. Tampa Bay released defensive lineman Randy Gregory, who signed a big contract to go to Tampa Bay, and then decided that suing the NFL was more important and never showed up to Tampa Bay, and is now not on a team and suing the NFL. So, and I put this last one on here because it was your team, but the Commanders released wide receiver Martavis Bryant.
That one, I feel bad for Martavis Bryant, man. Like, he got suspended because of weed, which now the NFL doesn't give two shits about. They don't even test for weed now. So, like, his entire career was just derailed because of a drug that at the time the NFL was like, oh, you can't smoke weed. And then literally like 2 years later, they're like, actually, we don't care. And it's like, well, you can't give him those years back. Like, it sucks for him. I was hoping he'd be able to stick on as like the 5th or 6th receiver, but yeah.
I don't want to be that guy, but not to mention those suspensions being more harsh than domestic violence and other things.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Moving into waiver signings, I said I was going to make a list, and here it is. QBs that would have been better backups than Cardinals QB Clayton Tune, and all of these peoples were dropped and available to the Cardinals and not picked up. Bills QB Ben DiNucci. I would have rather have had him. Bears QB Brett Rippon, who tore it up in the preseason. That one would have been perfect, in my opinion. I would even take Raiders QB Nathan Peterman.
That one I have questions about, because I don't know what Nathan Peterman's been up to lately, but I remember when he was a rookie, he was horrible. So maybe he's gotten better. I haven't seen him play, but that one kind of stood out to me because I was like, whoa, that's a name that I know.
All right, well, how about this one? Dolphins released QB and 2 years ago starting quarterback they said they had all the faith in the world in, Mike White.
Yeah, that I like, and they paid him a bunch too. Like,
Vikings QB Matt Corral. I would have been fine with that one. The one that I really wish they'd done, because this guy has starting experience and in those starts was good, former Patriots QB Bailey Zappi. He's been a backup for 2 years on the Patriots, and when flushed into the starting role, did a good job. So, Eagles QB Will Grier, another young quarterback that was very good in college that I think would probably be a decent option. I'm glad you put that in there. That I don't know how I missed that, but last and not least,
adjustment needed.
if you wanna go off former accolades, you could have signed a released Pro Bowler in Ravens. It says Ravens here. It was Browns. Browns released him. QB Tyler Huntley.
I'm actually I'm very confused as to why that one. I don't know Clayton Tune. I don't remember him being that impressive last year. Clearly, they just must really like him because Tyler Huntley has had success. It made the Pro Bowl, which we joke about, but he did have success on the field. He won games. He's got the same type of play style that Kyler Murray has.
That is the main point right there. And if you didn't say it, I was going to. Tyler Huntley is a similar quarterback to Kyler Murray, and wouldn't you think that you wouldn't want to have to completely re-game plan your weekly game plans if Kyler Murray were to go down for a different type of quarterback? Tyler Huntley can play what Kyler Murray plays. So I don't know. It's just there were a lot of options when I saw who got released, and then they didn't do anything. It didn't make sense to me.
That one's pretty. I'm hoping we don't see Clayton Tune at all this year. Hopefully Kyler plays all 17 games, but very curious to see how Tune looks in a game situation that they felt so comfortable with him. Obviously, he was better than Desmond Ridder, so that makes sense that they kept him.
That was a no-brainer.
Anyone else,
because no one's taken Clayton Tune.
No,
you could have released Clayton Tune, signed Tyler Huntley, and then got Clayton Tune on your practice squad and been totally fine. Yeah. That's what's confusing to me. But other waiver signings or just other signings, general news, Malik Willis was traded to the Packers from the Titans for a 7th rounder, which was, it's not surprising because Will Levis is their guy. Malik Willis is never going to be anything for them. So, there you go. Packers have Malik Willis now. Who, like we talked about with Tyler Huntley and the Cardinals, Malik Willis is a similar quarterback to Jordan Love. So that actually works for them.
They're both shit.
Dude, I can't. Side rail. I cannot tell you how many season predictions I've seen this week. None of them picked the Lions to win the North. All of them picked the Packers. And then with the ones that put records on it are even more ridiculous. It is driving me fucking crazy, the amount of stupid takes that I'm seeing. It's
as soon as the Packers had some hint of relevancy again, going into last year, they were, Rodgers was gone. All the hype was gone. So everyone's like, oh, I guess we'll talk about another team. And now that there's a little bit of hype back around the Packers, the national media is right back to suckling on that teat.
Never mind the actually proven last year record of the Lions, who didn't lose anything. But hey,
why would they don't need to do that? Yeah, because Jordan Love's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, so clearly he's the best quarterback in the NFL.
The Packers will definitely have 4 or 5 more wins than the Lions, like all these people keep saying. That makes total sense to me. Yeah, okay.
13-4 Packers, man. It's coming.
Juju Smith-Schuster signed with Kansas City again. I thought that he was completely done, but in a place where wide receivers continue to go to do nothing, he decided to go back. So, there you go.
You just get another ring, why not?
And for anyone new, big surprise, I'm a Lions fan, so I was very excited that the wide receivers signed both Tim Patrick, who I've talked a lot about in previous seasons of this show, and hoping that he would come back strong to be a good receiver for the Broncos. Well, they cut him, and now he has a chance to come back and be a strong receiver for the Lions. Now, on top of that, they also signed Allen Robinson II, who also has a chance to come back and be the receiver he has been in the past. So I'm pretty excited about both those wide receivers, since our third wide receiver is just a guy on the Lions right now. So the hope is Tim Patrick or Allen Robinson can slot into that slot receiver role and play well.
I like. I think Tim Patrick, because I remember hearing about him now that he's healthy, flashing during training camp, which is why I'm very surprised they cut him. I don't know what Allen Robinson has left at this point, but I think Tim Patrick. Hopefully, I'm surprised he's not on the active roster though. Like,
Yeah.
you're telling me the Lions have like 4 other receivers that are better than Tim Patrick? Because I can't even name more than 2 of them. So
They'll got to be moved to the active roster in the next few days because currently here's the list of the Lions' active roster receivers: Amon-Ra, Jamo, Khalif Raymond, Isaiah Williams, and then there's 2 guys on the IR.
I know Khalif Raymond. I have no idea who Isaiah Williams is.
He is either a rookie or a second-year guy. And the thing is, like, that's 4 active wide receivers for the team right now. That ain't going to fly.
Not enough. Well, and playing the Rams, I mean, put Allen Robinson out there against his old team. Maybe it'll motivate him.
Maybe he'll be
I think
excited.
Tim Patrick long-term is a good one.
Yeah, I like Tim Patrick a lot. And when I saw that we had signed him to the practice squad, I was very happy.
Yeah.
We talked about this one already. That was the Commanders signing Noah Brown, wide receiver Noah Brown.
I like our top 3 receivers. McLaurin, Diami Brown looks like a good deep threat, maybe, and Luke McCaffrey looks like a good slot guy. So Noah Brown would be more the outside guy across from Terry, if he can get on. He's got to learn the offense, but. I just like that he gives us some height. I wish it'd be nice, if he was like 6'4", 6'5", but 6'2" is still pretty good. And, I mean, obviously he's had big games in the NFL before, so he can do it. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know if he's going to do much this season, but maybe going into next year, he could be he could work his way to the number 2 outside.
Yeah, and the good news is that he's still very young. So
he is. Yeah, he is.
Well, maybe not very young. He's 28, but I mean, he's still got a lot of years left.
Yeah, you figure 3 or 4 solid years. Like that's, I'll take it.
Yep. Terrace Marshall, former Panthers wide receiver we talked about earlier, as well as running back Keyshawn Vaughn, signed with the 49ers. Keyshawn Vaughn makes a lot of sense since Elijah Mitchell is going to be out for
the
year. Yeah. So they are looking to see who's going to fill that backup spot. And it's kind of crazy because the past 2 years we've talked about how deep the 49ers running back room was. And Elijah Mitchell gets hurt, and now you're wondering what's going on with that 2 and 3 spot. So Keyshawn Vaughn,
there's a good
halfback.
There's a lot of talk about the rookie Isaac Guerrero, which I guess he's like just a speedster. He's just a home run hitter type running back. So I took Christian McCaffrey in a league because I had the number 1 pick, so I stashed Guerrero on my bench just in case McCaffrey gets hurt. But yeah, it's a long days past from when they had Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson and like 4 starting running backs on their team.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then it's funny because the Dolphins still have 2 of theirs.
Yeah.
So, Vikings signed QB Brett Rippon to active roster. And you know what? Of all the things that the Vikings have done, I think that might be one of their best because they dropped Jaron Hall, smart. Now Brett Rippon is their 3rd. If they are smart, they would make Brett Rippon their 2nd because I don't see if Sam Darnold plays bad and they got to put somebody else in, I would hope that they don't decide to make it. God, what is the guy that was there last year?
Matt Corral.
No, not Matt Corral. I'm bringing up the depth chart right now. His name, Nick Mullins.
No, yeah, Nick Mullins.
Their best option is Brett Rippon, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now that you've signed him, Nick Mullins, you saw him last year. He ain't doing nothing for you. So that was
Nicky Mullins.
Broncos signed former Chargers tight end Donald Parham. I put that in there just because Donald Parham is a good tight end. So that's a good one for if Albert O can continue to not impress, then or Troutman doesn't do well. Donald Parham's in a good spot too. So they have 4 really good tight ends there.
Yeah.
That's insane. And the Chiefs signed running back Samaje Perine to active roster and QB Bailey Zappi to the practice squad. Samaje, seen a lot of people picking him up now that he's been picked up by the Chiefs. Mostly because
Edwards-Helaire is missing a couple weeks too. Yeah.
Yep, because Helaire is down. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that will do it for the news on the cutdowns and waiver signings going into the season, just to round out people's rosters down to that 53-man. With that, we'll go ahead and start our picks. Season picks. Let's see what we got for the season. This was a lot of fun going into the playoffs podcast last season, seeing who we got right in the playoffs and how far we could get with those teams. So
yeah, it's always fun to look do this now, and then in January be looking back and see how right we were and how wrong we were, and then laugh at ourselves.
Considering I had the Bengals in the Super Bowl last year, that did not work out well for me at all. So
yeah, but that was due to an injury. That's tough when it's the quarterback goes down. It's like can't really blame a bad pick. That's just bad luck. But
nobody knew that Jake Browning was going to be the quarterback.
Jake Browning.
So
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll start off in the NFC North, or the NFC, and we'll start with the NFC North with our divisional winners. I picked the Detroit Lions. Unlike most national pundits decide they want to ride the popular wave and feed into the clout of fans that will be like, yes, see, somebody picked the Packers. I'm going to pick the Lions, who won it last year, did not lose hardly anything from their team besides a really good guard, but then replaced him with another Pro Bowl guard from the Ravens. So I'm still picking the Lions to win the division again.
Yeah, I agree. There's no reason for the Lions to be worse than they were last year. Everybody's healthy, and Jared Goff still plays the majority of his games indoors, and he's great when he's indoors. So, I know everybody is in love with Jordan Love because he had 6 good games at the end of the season. Yay! But the Lions still solid. Now, I think it will be closer. I think the NFC North will be closer, but obviously I think the Lions will still win it.
Yep, I agree. Next up, you've got the NFC South, and I've picked the Atlanta Falcons in a division where a lot of them could win it. But I feel like the Atlanta Falcons signing Kirk Cousins to actually do something with all of those weapons that they've had since last year will make them a better team this year. One that can actually win the division.
I think the Falcons can win it. The Bucks, I guess I should say the Falcons should win it. The Bucks can win it. Yep, I don't think the Saints or Panthers are anywhere close. The Saints are closer than the Panthers, but not gonna compete for it. But I think the Falcons are the obvious choice in the NFC South.
Yep. NFC West. I mean, we're just rolling down the list all on the same page. I picked the 49ers. I think the Rams will be close. I don't think the 49ers will be as runaway this year, but I'm still picking the 49ers.
Yeah, I think the Rams losing Aaron Donald is really going to hurt their defense. Offense should be good if Kupp and Stafford stay healthy, but I'm curious to see what the Rams defense is like without Aaron Donald being, the man. The 49ers, I still think, I have them, spoiler, as my number 1 seed. I think they're still the best team in the NFC, if not the league. So, yeah, they're my pick.
Yep. NFC East, this pick, could have gone between the Cowboys and the Eagles, and I went with the Eagles. I would have picked them anyway, but also the whole different winner every season thing.
Yep.
So
exactly.
I've got the Eagles winning the NFC East.
everybody wonders why the Eagles fell apart at the end of last year. It's the curse of the NFC East. You're not allowed to win the division 2 years in a row.
Right.
So the Cowboys won it last year. Clearly, it's the Eagles' turn. So yeah, that one's pretty easy.
Isn't it hilarious that curse would have ended? Actually, that curse ended up hurting my Lions. There you go. Because those terrible calls at the end of the Dallas game against the Lions in Dallas so that they could keep their home winning streak.
Oh, yeah.
Ended up winning the division for the Cowboys. So, yeah, great.
Yep.
AFC division winners. Let's go with the AFC North. I've got the Baltimore Ravens.
Me too.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise.
The Bengals will compete, but the Ravens are... that defense is too good. They added Derrick Henry, which, isn't like adding Derrick Henry from 8 years ago, but... and then, yeah, Lamar is Lamar, coming off an MVP season somehow. The Ravens are... Bengals will push them more than the Steelers or Browns, but the Ravens will still win it, I think.
Yeah, I need a full season seeing what Joe Burrow's going to do after his injury, as well as to see how their running back room does without Joe Mixon. But yeah, I still got the Bengals in a good spot. So
yeah,
AFC South, I got the Houston Texans.
I don't think there's an argument to be made for any other team in that division.
Yeah, this one was a little easy. I could see. Yeah, I'm with you. It just depends on how good they come back. If they play like they did last year, all year, Texans will run away with it. But the Jaguars still have a chance. And if the Colts, I don't know if you've listened to any fantasy anything this past few weeks, but everybody, fantasy-wise, is in love with Anthony Richardson. They believe he will be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. And so, who knows what the Colts do either.
I think the Jags, to me, are like the Bucks in the NFC South. Both divisions are terrible. There's the obvious leader. There's the second-place team that, hey, if everything goes right. The Colts, Anthony Richardson, it's like he redshirted last year. It's like his rookie year again. And I know everyone's like, oh my God, he's going to be like Lamar, but be better or whatever. But I'm just like, I have to see it. I'm not going to go out here and draft the guy or believe in the guy without seeing what he does. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I think the Texans, at least on paper, that team is so loaded with talent, they should have no problem winning that division.
And the next one, I think, is a fairly easy pick. AFC West, Kansas City Chiefs. Chargers might have a good record, might be able to sneak into the playoffs. Raiders, I think, will be bad. Denver, I think, will be bad. So
the only way the Chiefs don't win the division is if something happens to Mahomes. It's like the Patriots in the early 2000s. The only way they don't win the division is if the quarterback gets hurt. The Chiefs are just going to run away with that division for a long time.
Yeah. And then finally, a division where we finally have something different, and that's the AFC East. I have the Dolphins.
I went with the Bills. This is the only division I actually thought was more difficult because it's not clear-cut to me that the Bills won the division. I think the Bills and Dolphins are two very good teams, and they're going to be battling it out. I guess I just went with recency. The Bills have won it, and I like Josh Allen. The Dolphins are loaded at talent, but it just it worries me. Their quarterback, their receiver, A-Chain, they all like to get banged up, so it just worries me.
But they have them until they're banged up. And the problem right now for me with the Bills is that you have a bunch of receivers that you don't know if they are full season amazing players. Losing Stephon Diggs and losing, as much as you don't like him, Gabe Davis, who was Josh Allen's oh shit button, could end up being very bad for the Bills. Bad enough to make them be bad team, no. But bad enough to lose a division? Quite possibly. Not division, but conference. No, division.
Division, yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, like I said, either one of these. This is the only one where it's actually like, oh man, like either one of these teams can win the division. So this will at least be an interesting race to watch
for us. People would say something about the NFC North.
Oh, I don't give a shit about that. People can say wrong things all the time. It doesn't mean I have to validate their opinion.
So that'll take us right into the where things can get a little more interesting because wild cards come into play, and that is playoff predictions. So I'm gonna give you my AFC seedings for the conference winners that we picked. Then you give me yours. So I'm gonna take the Ravens as the number 1 seed, the Dolphins as the number 2 seed, the Chiefs as the 3 seed, and the Texans as the 4 seed. What do you got?
I have the Chiefs as the 1 seed, the Ravens as the 2, the Bills as the 3, and the Texans as the 4.
See, I just don't see, especially after like last season, they didn't really do anything to their wide receiver crew, the Chiefs, that is. And as a regular season team, they weren't that great. That's why I don't have them at number 1, because I don't think they'll be the best record team in the AFC, but they are the Super Bowl winners.
They drafted Xavier Worthy and signed Hollywood Brown.
Hollywood Brown's injured, and Xavier Worthy, I've multiple times told you what I think of him. So
I know, but they did do something. It's just you don't believe it helped.
I believe Hollywood Brown will help a lot, but he's hurt. So tomorrow night's game will be fun for sure.
You're gonna hate my foreplay.
I already seen it. So AFC wildcards. I've got the Bills, so the other team from that division. I've got the Bengals, and then my last one I put the Colts.
I had and I'm actually gonna do these in order, so 5, 6, and 7. I have the Bengals as the 5th seed. The Dolphins is the 6th seed, so we both ended up with the Bills and the Dolphins in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But then my 7th seed is the Jets.
All right. Well, I did that last year.
Too many players on the Jets. I know.
Yeah, that didn't work out for me last year. But
again, Rodgers
was gone after 4 plays. So
the Jets just have too many good players on that team, man. Like Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Quincy Williams. There are just too many people I like. And then
Quinnen Williams also?
The Quinnen ones.
Yeah. For the longest time, Q Williams linebacker I thought was Quincy moved to linebacker. I did not realize it's his cousin or brother, one of the two. So
I think cousin.
Yeah. That linebacker, Quinnen Williams, he's really good too.
Yes. He's my dynasty linebacker.
So moving to the NFC, my number 1 seed, the 49ers. My number 2 seed, the Lions. Just got to keep it in line with last year. Number 3 seed, the Eagles. And number 4 seed, the Falcons.
Pretty similar. I've got the 49ers 1. I have the Eagles 2, the Lions 3, and the Falcons 4.
All right. And then number 5 is the Cowboys for me. Number 6 is the Rams for me. And number 7 is the Packers.
I have the Cowboys at 5, the Packers at 6, and the Bears at 7.
I saw that. I was Bears. That is interesting.
And you know what? I looked at the over-unders, and I was like, I don't know. Vegas has them. If I have them at 9 wins, that's a wild card team. So,
true.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I see that you put your list together like I did to kind of just make an educated guess there on the teams that were left that weren't division winners that would make the playoffs. And the Bears are right in there with the Bucks as other options, but that's less surprising now that we go and look at those over-unders we picked, so it makes sense. Yeah. And I did pick the Bears over? Yeah. So, I'm with you. All right, well, going into the wild card round, I have the Dolphins beating the Colts, the Bengals beating the Chiefs, and the Bills beating the Texans. So I'll give the Dolphins playoff win. You know, I have the upset of the Bengals beating the Chiefs.
That's pretty nice.
I have the Lions. Joe Burrow's mad. Okay, he wants his playoff. He wants his playoff clout too. Lions beating the Packers in the wild card round. That'll be a fun game if that happens.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Eagles beating the Rams, and then the Cowboys beating the Falcons.
I have two of the exact same matchups in the NFC. I have the Cowboys beating the Falcons, the Lions beating the Packers, and I have the Eagles beating the Bears. So, same three winners, and two of the exact same matchups. And the AFC, I have the Ravens beating the Jets, the Bills beating the Dolphins, and the Bengals beating the Texans. So, in both the AFC and the NFC, my 4 seeds lost in the wild card round.
Nice. It happens. Well, that'll take to the divisional round where the number 1 seeds come into play, and that brings the Ravens in to beat the Bengals, who just beat the Chiefs for me. Lamar gets that playoff win, sends himself to the AFC Championship, and then I have the Dolphins beating the Bills. So I have a lot of old playoff stories being rewritten here with the Dolphins winning and the Ravens winning going to the AFC Championship game. As well as the 49ers beating the Cowboys and the Eagles beating the Lions.
So in the AFC, I have the Chiefs beating the Bengals and the Ravens beating the Bills. So both have the Ravens going into the AFC Championship game. Mm-hmm. And then the NFC, the exact same 2 games. 49ers beat the Cowboys, Eagles beat the Lions.
That's crazy. Same 2. All right, well, then the championship round, I've got the Ravens beating the Dolphins to go to the Super Bowl, and the 49ers in the NFC beating the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl. So 49ers, Ravens, Super Bowl for me.
I did not look at yours when I did mine, but I also have the Ravens in the AFC beating the Chiefs. Lamar finally getting one over on Patrick Mahomes. Like that story. And the 49ers beating the Eagles. So Ravens, 49ers, Super Bowl. I swear to God, I did not look at yours. I just went through and did mine. And then I was like, I wonder what Dan did. And I looked, and we had the exact same Super Bowl matchup.
Pretty funny. We did, however, pick different winners. I took the 49ers over the Ravens. Finally getting over
the Ravens.
That hump. That Super Bowl championship window is closing on the Niners, and they need to win this year. So I think this is the year they win it. It
would just be so funny if they didn't. And nothing against the 49ers, but it would just be so funny if they didn't. So yeah, I went with the Ravens beating the 49ers. So yeah, same Super Bowl, but different winners. So we'll see who ends up being right come February.
I like it. Funny enough, neither of us have the Steelers in the playoffs, and that is the biggest futures bet that I have right now. I made a bunch of futures bet the day of the Super Bowl this year because the odds were so high based on what they did last year. And I put $1 on the Steelers. That would win me $1,100 if the Steelers won the Super Bowl. So,
damn.
So, you know,
I mean,
if
that would
the
be a
Steelers find a way to win the Super Bowl.
Hell of a season for Russ if he was able to pull that off.
Exactly.
Well, let's dive into our Thursday night foreplay, our week 1. It's finally here. We did it for the preseason, but this is the real mama jama here. Thursday night foreplay for week 1.
I am surprised. I feel like the ones I have on mine are easier to get, and somehow mine has a higher odds than yours.
I can explain mine very simply. So Xavier Worthy anytime touchdown, Xavier Worthy over 45.5 receiving yards. That's one play. I think Xavier Worthy is going to catch a 50 to 60 yard touchdown. They're going to pull out the bomb to him. He's the speedster. The NFL wants it. I think it's going to happen. The other two, Mahomes over 1.5 passing touchdowns, over 250 yards passing. Those are almost gimmies.
Yes, exactly. The Mahomes ones, or the anytime touchdown scorer one, is the one where I'm like, how is yours not even plus 400? It doesn't even qualify for the bonus.
Surprisingly low. Yeah.
It doesn't even qualify for like the bonus bet.
The anytime touchdown odds for him, I think were only like plus 150. Like that's I think crazy. Even Vegas is like, yeah, he's going to catch a long touchdown.
Yeah. So for everyone else. What just happened? Okay, so for everyone else, listen to the 4 on mine. I have Lamar Jackson rushing for over 49.5 yards. That's the only one that might be tough here, I think. Justin Tucker, over 1.5 field goals. One of the best field goal kickers in the league. So if they're anywhere close and it's fourth down, the odds are they're going to kick a field goal. 2 of them, easy. I have the Baltimore Ravens at plus 7.5. I adjusted the spread to plus 7.5 to cover a losing by a touchdown, despite the fact that I think the Ravens are going to win the game. And then on top of that, I have over 1.5 Patrick Mahomes touchdowns. So I feel like that's a pretty good foreplay for that game.
Yeah, I think the rushing yards is going to be the only thing that's going to hurt you. If for some reason they like have a lead and he doesn't need to run. I don't know. That's the but like 2 field goals. The Ravens aren't going to lose by more than a touchdown if they lose at all. And over 1.5. Now is that over 1.5 Mahomes passing touchdowns or any like rushing or passing?
Passing.
Okay. The same thing I did. Yeah, I like it. The odds on mine I was surprised it was so low, but that Xavier Worthy anytime touchdown apparently everybody thinks is going to happen. So,
well,
we shall see. Also, I want to point this out. The reason I did that, not only because I think the NFL would want it to happen, he is against me in one of my fantasy leagues. So I'm like, naturally the guy's going to get like 10 points. So there you go. 1 catch, 50 yards, and a touchdown.
There you go. Now for my bread and butter.
Let's go. Week 1, fresh start, clean slate.
I don't have to give you any handicaps yet.
Not yet. Yeah. All right, so let's start off with our Coffin Corner picks. So week 1, we're both 0-0, getting a nice fresh start here. And we're going to start off with tomorrow night's game, Ravens at Chiefs. Chiefs by 3.
All right, let me open up the pick. Oh, you can't do pick them all from the computer. All right, I was going to open up my sleeper so I can just fill it out as we go, but all right,
that's a good idea.
Ravens at Chiefs with the Chiefs at a -3. Well, I'm taking the Ravens because I put the Ravens at a plus 7.5 on the on my foreplay. So I think that's pretty obvious who I think's winning that game.
So you think the Ravens are going to win outright?
Yep.
Yeah. Boy, yeah. I think the same thing. I think the Chiefs are. If it was any other opponent, it's week 1. They've got the Super Bowl hangover. Maybe they'd get the win, but the Ravens are a very tough team. So
I know that they didn't have Chris Jones last year in week 1 against the Lions, but they did not come out looking great in week 1 last year.
They also didn't the one time they won the Super Bowl before that too. They also that's when they had a super rough start to the season. So yeah, I think I like the Ravens in that one too. Well, we got Friday night in Brazil. Packers at Eagles. Eagles by 2.5.
So the Eagles only need to win by a field goal to cover the spread. I think they do that. I think the Eagles will win by a touchdown or 10 points.
Okay, but now we're just picking the winner.
I know. I'm picking the winner. I'm picking the Eagles.
Okay,
but I'm talking about the spread.
Switching it up. Yeah. No, that's fine. I just want to if I'm putting, I want to make sure I'm putting down the correct thing in this one. I'm insulted that the spread is that low. Who do people think the Packers are that the Eagles can't win by a field goal? That's stupid. Mm-hmm. I'm going with the Eagles as well. All right, so Sunday morning we got.
The spread's a little different on the Sleeper app. It's 3.5, not 2.5, which kind of. I said 7-10, so I'll still pick the Eagles in the Sleeper league, but
See,
there's a big difference.
Harder because 3 is a common margin of victory.
Mm-hmm.
So 3.5, it's oh man, they've got to win by more than a field goal. Whereas
that's why I'm saying
the
2.5 makes it an easier pick. 3.5 is way different. All right,
3.5 is a better spread, but I'm just
Well, like I said, I think they're going to win by 7-10.
People who think the Packers are so fucking good. I swear, I hope Friday the Eagles blow them out, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, the Packers aren't as good as we thought." That would just be my dream come true to start the year.
Mine too.
All right, Titans at Bears. Bears by 4.5.
That is a kind of a big spread for a Bears team that was not great last year. But here's the thing about it is better quarterback. Well, new quarterback.
I'd say better.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bears just because I think the Titans are going to be really bad, and I think the Bears got to get these easy wins if they're going to be over 8.5 wins. So, I'll take the Bears.
Yeah,
and they're at home.
It's at home, and the Bears' defense was very good to end last year. I mean,
that's what I was going to say. Once they got Montez Sweat, they were crazy good on defense.
Yeah. So, and they didn't lose anybody on the defensive side of the ball. So, as long as the offense, and the difference between Caleb Williams and Justin Fields, hopefully, is that Caleb's not giving the ball away like Justin Fields like to do, or making, so I don't expect Caleb Williams to go out there and look like Patrick Mahomes. You just don't turn the ball over. Let them, they can win 10-3, but they'll still win. So, I'm going with the Bears.
I'm with you.
Steelers at Falcons. Falcons by 3.5. There are a lot of 3.5 spreads here because it's week 1 and Vegas has no idea what they're doing.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I picked the Falcons to win their division. I'm honestly going to go with an upset.
Oh.
I'm going to pick the Steelers in this game.
All right. Going with the Steelers. I'm going to go with the Falcons. I like what they added to their defense. Kirk is a very serviceable quarterback. Bijan Robinson. And I look at the Steelers and think, over the hill Russell Wilson, Diva George Pickens, 2 running backs they can't figure out which one to use. I'm going with the Falcons.
Well, I'm going to go with TJ Watt destroying Kirk Cousins. That's what I'm going to go with.
And he very well might. And then Michael Penix comes in and wins the game. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, at least that would be interesting.
This is another spread that I am legitimately insulted by. Jaguars at Dolphins. Dolphins by 3.5.
Yeah. Don't know what's going on there. If the Jaguars were at home, I might understand it a little more, but I'm taking the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Jaguars are a garbage team, but the Dolphins are a Super Bowl contender and the Jaguars are a wild card contender. Mm-hmm. So it's insulting to be like 3.5. That's why Vegas literally didn't know what they were doing. It's just like, put 3.5. Let's just put 3.5 for everything. So yeah, Dolphins for both of us. Patriots at Bengals. Bengals by 8.5. The biggest spread of the week.
Bengals to win.
Yeah.
And I honestly, even though we had the contention about the Patriots, I don't think they're covering an 8.5 spread against the Bengals.
It's funny that when we do the sleeper pick, I'm curious what sleeper has that one at, because when it comes to bigger spreads like that, that's when it becomes really hard for me to be like, yeah, the Bengals are going to win by 9 or 10. And they might, but it's just
they're at 9.5.
9.5
on sleeper.
See, that's hard, man. That's like Bengals have to win by 10, which they could, but it's week 1. Maybe they don't want to run up the score. Maybe they're I don't know.
They're just still rusty.
That's a tough one. Yeah. So yeah, that's a tough one, but I still think the Bengals win. Maybe they just win by 7. Texans at Colts. Texans by 2.5.
Give me the Colts at home. ruining everyone's thoughts about the Texans.
The Colts to get the upset over the Texans in Week 1.
I would pick the Texans if they were in Texas. I picked the Colts because they're in Indianapolis.
I'm still picking the Texans. Too many, just too many good players in that team. And I like Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor. Who knows about Anthony Richardson? But yeah, I got to go with the Texans. I'll play it safe in Week 1. All right, this one is infuriating. Vikings at Giants. Vikings by 1.5.
They just think these two teams are equally bad.
Yeah.
I'll take the Vikings simply because of their wide receivers.
It's a really hard one, man, because the Vikings have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones if he's healthy, see what he's got left. The Giants have Malik Neighbors.
They have him. You are correct. What he is, nobody knows.
And Daniel Jones, I guess, is still there. This is a really tough one. I don't believe in Sam.
Who's their starting running back for the Giants? David Singletary.
Yeah, Devin Singletary.
And
yeah, I don't like picking a Sam Darnold-led team, but as long as he can get the ball near Justin Jefferson, I think they'll be okay. So I'm going to go with the Vikings as well.
Yeah, there are not going to be a lot of Vikings picks this year for me, but that one I take.
That's just an ugly.
That's an ugly game.
Pick. Yeah. Panthers at Saints. Saints by 3.5.
I'll take the Saints at home. I think both of them. And I think the Saints are better than the Panthers. My question is, here's the problem for me, is that I feel like the Panthers are going to be better than they were last year. I just don't know how much better. And the Saints are a team that they have a chance to beat. It's not like they're playing the Ravens in Week 1, but I don't know. Saints are at home. They still got, Derek Carr and a bunch of good players, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think the Panthers will be better, but that's like saying, okay, they're going to win 3 or 4 games.
Competitive. Yeah, they'll play competitively when they didn't at all last year.
They'll have moments. I think they beat the Texans. Isn't that true? The Panthers upset the Texans at one point last year, I believe. Kamara, Olave, Derek Carr, I like some of what the Saints have. So I'm gonna go with the Saints. Cardinals at Bills. Bills by 6.5.
Bills.
Yeah, that's a heartbreaker because I really do want to pick the Cardinals, but it's going from west to east, and it is the Bills. So I'm going with the Bills. I'd love an upset, though. I would be so freaking happy if they could pull that one out. But historically, they just do not play well when traveling to the East Coast.
And I cannot pick the Cardinals until they win a game. That's how I feel.
That's fair. That's how I feel about the Commanders. Spoiler alert. Raiders at Chargers. Chargers by 3.
I'll take the Chargers, winning their first game under Jim Harbaugh, as well as the fact that the Raiders are starting Gardner Minshew.
Yes, Uncle Rico himself.
Yeah,
I like the Chargers to get a win there. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. And they still, when they do need to pass, they still have Justin Herbert as a very good quarterback. So, yeah.
The biggest thing for this game to me is finding out who gets the majority of the carries, Dobbins or Gus Edwards.
That is going to be, well, and can Dobbins stay healthy?
I think he'll be fine as far as health, but the question still remains, are they going to split? Is one going to be 70-30, and who's the 70 and who's the 30?
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I'm glad I'm not having to start any of them. I do have Dobbins and Edwards on a couple leagues stashed, but they're all just benches. Like, hey, I hope this is the guy they choose. I'm not relying on any of them to start.
I didn't pick any of them in any of the leagues I had actual drafts in, but I have had J.K. Dobbins on my dynasty team for the entirety of it. So it would be really nice if that pick actually did something for me finally.
Finally. So. We shall see. Broncos at Seahawks. Seahawks by 5.5.
I'm going to take the Seahawks, but I'm also going to take the Broncos to cover the spread.
I am actually taking the Broncos outright. I think Bo Nix is going to come out there and play well. I know it's in Seattle, which makes me a little nervous, but the Seahawks don't impress me that much anymore, defense or offense. So I'm going to pick the Broncos for a little upset week 1.
I like it. I could see that one for sure. I like the Broncos. I like Bo Nix.
Cowboys at Browns. And this is not a typo. Browns favored by 2.5. I looked twice to make sure that was correct.
They got Deshaun Watson's not hurt now, so that's a thing. And I mean the Cowboys aren't playing at home either, so I am actually going. You know what? I'll take the Cowboys simply for the fact that with all the contract stuff that's gone on, I think Dak wants to play well and show that it doesn't bother him, and he's just going to ball out this year and take his chances on himself at the end of the year. And if he loses this game and plays badly, that would not reflect well. It would seem like, oh, he's distracted by his contract situation. So I think he wants to just go out there and go crazy. So I'll take the Cowboys.
I'm also going to take the Cowboys. I do see a path that the Browns can win this game if everything goes right for them. Myles Garrett is in the backfield hassling Dak, and Jerry Jeudy and Amari Cooper, and Jerome Ford's running and Deshaun Watson plays like he did 3 years ago. They could win this game. I just don't find it very likely. So I'm going with the Cowboys.
Yep.
I hope I'm wrong, because I would love to see the Cowboys lose week 1. Oh, that'd make me happy.
For sure.
Commanders at Bucks. Bucks by 3.5.
Commanders at Bucks by 3.5. Well, I'm going to pick the Bucks simply because I know you're also going to pick them. And I'm not going to go against the Buck guru here. Not the Buck guru, the Commander guru.
Yeah.
You're a Buck
I
guru.
do think this is a game that we could win if I knew more about how the offense was going to look. But yeah, I can't pick them until I see them win a game and I know what it's going to look like. So I know what the Bucks look like: Baker, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and they're good. So go with the Bucks.
Yep.
Rams at Lions. Lions by 3.5.
Lions are playing at home. Jared Goff loves to play at home. And despite the fact Stafford also loves to play at Ford Field, I'm still going to take the Lions.
Lions
didn't win a lot
in the playoffs last year.
Well, Lions didn't win a lot of Week 1 games until last year. And it's a new dawn in Detroit, so I'm going to go with setting the precedent of winning in Week 1. Now, I wish this game wasn't Sunday night. I wish my first game for the Lions I could watch from my couch, but
that
not
sucks.
At work, but no. I'm taking the Lions.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lions too. They've already beaten the Rams recently at home in a high-pressure situation, so yeah. I like them. And last one, Jets at 49ers. 49ers by 4.5.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It was a Monday night, Week 1, that Aaron Rodgers got hurt last time, right?
Not only was it Monday night, Week 1, Dante Fowler was the defensive end that hurt him, and he is now on the 49ers. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be looking for ghosts out there.
Yeah. I'm taking the 49ers. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers gets hurt this time, but I did think that was kind of eerie that they would put him in Monday night.
But they didn't put it at
on Monday night.
Home. If they had put that in New York on Monday night, like that would have just been cursing him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going with the 49ers. If he does get hurt again, I will probably piss myself laughing. I am very curious to see what the Jets look like with him at quarterback, because we have no idea, and it's been a year and a half. So very curious to see.
I just don't want him to get hurt because I won't hear from him as often if he's not hurt. But last year when he was hurt, he had all the time in the world to just talk and talk and talk.
Yeah,
everybody wanted to give him a platform.
So freaking funny if it happened again that I would piss myself. Like, it would just, the irony of that situation would be too funny.
For sure.
But yeah, I would like him to. The thing is, even when he retires, he's still going to go be on Pat McAfee's show all the time. So he's never going to disappear. But
the good news is I don't watch Pat McAfee's show, so.
Well, I don't watch anything he talks on.
Yeah.
I scroll right past his ass on X.
Yep.
All right, well, those are our picks. Let's see. We have 1, 2, 3 different.
Yep.
So, opportunity for somebody to get a nice lead in week 1. See what happens.
Yes, it is.
And then we'll dive into our week 1 fantasy football sleepers. It's tough week 1 because, I mean, we don't really know what the defenses are going to be like. So I'm mostly going off of just where players were ranked and how I think they'll do. So for quarterback, I went with Tua. He's ranked 23rd on ESPN at quarterback for the week. Playing Jacksonville, I don't know much about Jacksonville's defense, but I do know that the Dolphins led the NFL in passing last year, so I don't know why you'd be ranked 23rd.
I agree. That is why, I mean, that makes sense to me. I went somewhere else. Justin Herbert, hurt last year, coming back, playing against a bad Raiders team in Los Angeles. He's ranked 18th. So I feel like Justin Herbert not getting the appreciation he deserves. I mean, it's probably because of Ladd McConkey being his number 1 receiver, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they lost Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and everyone's like, "Oh, Justin Herbert doesn't exist anymore." And it's like he could turn Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer, and Ladd McConkey into good receivers.
But somehow Josh Allen does.
Yeah. Well, he ran for like 20 touchdowns last season, so that's where he gets a lot of his value.
Yeah, but
I went with the Charger as well.
Similar quarterbacks, similar accolades, similar wide receiver.
Yeah, but I mean, fantasy-wise, Herbert doesn't run as much, so I think that's why people still take Josh Allen high.
Well, he definitely won't run as much now, not with what happened to him.
Yeah. I went with a Charger at running back. I picked one, and I picked J.K. Dobbins. I think he's finally healthy. I think, at the very least, for week 1, he should do well. Hopefully, he can last all season. He's ranked 29th because, obviously, we don't know who's going to be the hot hand. But I'm going with Dobbins.
I like it, and I hope that happens, and I hope that he is the number 1 guy. I went with Austin Eckler from your Commanders against Tampa Bay because he was ranked 25th. I just don't see any way
that's a good one.
Pay that guy that much money to not be a massive part of your offense.
Well, and they're going to have to throw a lot in that game, so I think Eckler, especially catching the ball out of the backfield, that he's going to get a lot of points that way. So,
no.
And the reason they're going to have to throw a lot is because our secondary is the worst in the entire league. So I'm going with Mike Evans. He's ranked 15th, which is pretty high, but it's still outside the top 12. But I think he is going to have a monster week 1 against our shit secondary. I'm even going to put a note in here. I'm calling 2 touchdowns from Mike Evans. 2 TDs.
Interesting.
I'm making the bold claim.
I like it. Well, I picked DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears versus the Titans because somehow he's ranked 30th. So
yeah, that's weird.
DJ Moore, the guy who had a large volume of receptions per game last year, even if he just gets the receptions and not a ton of yards, that's still enough to push him way past 30.
Well, they paid him a lot of money for like 4 more years. Like, they made him their guy, so he is definitely going to be involved. Yeah, that's crazy. Tight end, which we know is hard. I think last year we talked about getting rid of tight end. So yeah, going forward, if we can just make this tight end / defense, and you just pick whichever one you want to do. But I went with tight end. I went with Hayden Hurst of the Chargers. They don't have a lot of people to catch the ball, but he knows the offense from playing in Baltimore with Greg Roman. So I'm like, well, he's ranked 25th. Shouldn't be too hard to get. I swear to God, his projection was like 6 points. So yeah, I mean, couple catches, 40 yards. That'll get you there.
I got the CJ Stroud oh shit button, and that's Dalton Schultz at the Colts, the 14th ranked tight end. I feel like he'll have a good week. Also a tight end that I picked in a few leagues late because
I love Dalton Schultz.
Yeah. I'm just like, if you catch balls on the Texans, you're probably going to have a decent week. So,
yeah. Very true. I just realized we did not pick our...
I was about to say we need to go back and bonus pick.
Yeah. So. What were the rules again? It had to be
could not be over 7.
Over 7, that's right.
The spread could not be over 7. So we can't pick the Bengals.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the Bills are the obvious choice.
I mean, yeah. There's a lot of... I mean, I'm just going to go...
I'm going to double down on the Bucks. I'm picking the Bucks as my bonus.
Well, I'm going to double down on my belief that the Ravens are going to win tomorrow against the Chiefs.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
So...
I'm double jinxing the Bucks, so hopefully they do lose to the Commanders. But this way, if they don't, I'll get 2 points.
Yeah, there you go. Extra incentive for happiness.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right, well, an extra 15 minutes off our longest preseason podcast is not too shabby. So
that's not bad. And considering we did our season predictions, like each week we should be able to keep it around an hour.
Yeah.
If you've been listening for a long time, you miss those 3-hour-long podcasts, don't you?
That's over time, you learn. And I guess we
those
are learning.
Long-haul truckers.
Yeah. They're going to be very upset. They're going to have to listen to the podcast 3 times.
Yeah. Damn it.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it for us for this week. Next week, we'll come back with our Week 1 recap as well as our Week 2 preview. Starting in on the just having the same type of show every week. Just getting into that meat and potatoes of the NFL season. So I hope everybody enjoys their kickoff weekend. You got a lot of days of football this week. Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, a lot of games for everybody. So enjoy that. Come back, listen to the show. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are found. Just search Coffin Corner Podcast. Look for the pylon logo, and that's us. As well, you can go to YouTube, youtube.com/@CoffinCorner, where you can watch the replays of this live podcast here on TikTok. If you want to check out our TikTok, you can find it on Coffin Corner Podcast. If you're here right now, give us a follow. We would appreciate that a lot. It helps a lot of things as far as the Tiki Talks go. And if you want to follow us on X, where we will be tweeting on Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, go check that out at Coffin Corners on X/Twitter. Until then, I hope you all have a great week. It's going to be a lot of fun getting into the football season again. Richie, you got anything left for the peeps?
Just excited for week 1, and I'm even more excited for next week's podcast because that first reaction podcast is always fun. You never know what to expect in the first week of the NFL season. So, yeah.
That is for damn sure. Well, we can end it off with the saying coming back. So I'll do it now. Good luck to everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the first week of the NFL season, and good luck to your teams, unless they're playing mine. Have a good weekend.